morning, everybody. Welcome to another Talent Matters Wave webinar. Thank you all for joining. One of the first times I put a shirt on in a long time, actually. So these webinar series are normally the only time now I put a shirt on. So ironed it especially this morning. Today I am joined by Ashby Jenkins, who also happens to be my niece. So no, we won't share any family secrets just yet. But today we are talking around everything that's happened with COVID. Has meant that agencies have had to change, pivot, probably the most overused word that we have had. Still reminds me of Friends, that episode of the sofa, but we hear the word pivot quite a lot. And it's something that a lot of agencies have had to do, a lot of businesses have had to do. And today we're kind of discussing from a practical point of view, how that actually looks and what actually companies have been doing to pivot, to change, to review how their business works, and ultimately to survive. And hopefully, once this is all over, who knows that when that will be, we can grow and be a even greater success than what we were kind of going into this. So I am joined, as I said, by Ashby Jenkins of AJ Recruitment, a not-for-profit agency. Ashby, I'll let you plug your business to the max in classic Jenkins style. But you've been around in business for just coming up 2 years now, so you still got enough of the sort of startup mentality to hopefully sort of draw upon that experience for people who might be thinking about setting up their own business and haven't become too stuck in your ways. So yeah, Ashby, say hello. Tell us about your business.
Hello, everyone. So yes, David and I are related. Obviously, I got the hair gene. He didn't. That's unfortunate. But just to start with that, I suppose. So yes, I run Ashby Jenkins Recruitment. We are a boutique kind of specialist agency working within the not-for-profit sector. So traditionally with kind of your charities like Shelter, Cancer Research UK, as well as higher education and membership bodies. We, as David said, we are under 2 years old. The team is 4 people in total. So we've kind of padded out, I guess, in that time, and had bigger plans to grow before COVID hit. Those are kind of on a bit of temporary pause, but hopefully not for too much longer. We traditionally work in a really candidate short market and job heavy, which COVID completely destroyed. So yes, we absolutely still have that startup mentality of being able to move quickly, but our market definitely shifted on its head. So we have to kind of adapt really fast. Our branding has always been heavily based on relationship-led approaches and being a recruitment partner rather than just a supplier, which I think, and we'll go into more detail during the webinar, but I think that is what has led to us being kind of successful during this time period, just adding that value in more of that way. So that's a bit of us. I'm sure David will share our website link, and I'll mention some of our webinars and the marketing things that we've been doing. So you can all have a look at that.
Brilliant. Yes. We will get all of that shared out. Sometimes I find I can't multitask, so I can't type on the sidebar and talk as well. So I'm fairly one-dimensional when it comes to things like this. But obviously on the right hand side, you'll see some comments and you're able to share your views. So if you agree with what we're saying, then say so. If you disagree, say so. If you've got any questions, then please send those through there. You can see there's already some activity on there. Just want to say a special hello to Will Morris, who texted me before the webinar and asked me to be a little less wooden. So I will do my best on that. But yeah, please do make your comments, make yourselves known on that sidebar as well. So let's kind of start off then, Ash, with what happened. Where was your business? Thanks, Will. Where was your business? What was it? The 22nd of March or whatever it was before lockdown hit. Where were you at?
Yeah, so we had so we work on calendar years, and Q1 was our biggest year, our biggest quarter ever, which was fantastic, which has definitely helped give us a bit of breathing room during the last 7 months. We on average, between kind of 4 of us would take in anywhere between kind of 6 and 10 jobs per week, and had a kind of really healthy pipeline. And then between the 16th of March, which is where everyone was like, oh God, I think we're going to go into a lockdown, and between the 21st or 23rd even, we lost a 90% drop in our pipeline of jobs. We had 2 placements pull out or cancelled by clients, which was actually quite lucky in the grand scheme of things. And our sector really, as along with everyone else, basically just went into panic stations. So all recruitment budgets were frozen, and those freezes are still in place in a lot of our clients. And we went from kind of, as I said, being a really job heavy market to taking in we were lucky to get kind of 1 job a week in the first kind of month or so after that change. And then kind of 2.5 months in, vacancies started coming back in a reasonable flow. But we were in a really great position. We were planning for Q2 to be bigger growth, and then everything obviously went crazy, which was really difficult. So you mentioned pivoting, but that's something that we had to do really quickly. I think luckily, as you mentioned, we are young, so all of our systems were already cloud-based. Our phone lines, our CRM system, we use Bullhorn, so that was all really simple, and we could move everyone into working from home from the 17th onwards, because I was in massive denial about the fact that we would go into lockdown. One of my team, who I think in the end actually did give me COVID, which was lovely, because it's important that you work closely with the team and share things. One of my team was still on the 16th saying it was all a big conspiracy theory and that nothing was really going to happen. So it was definitely a quick wake-up call for us.
And I mean, one of the things that I've never run a recruitment business. So, we talk a lot about what businesses can do from a theory point of view, but you've experienced it within that actual environment. How was that what were you feeling at this particular point? Because everything's great. You're planning for for growth. The business is 2 years old. You're kind of over that first hurdle of the startup, and things are moving forward, and then suddenly something completely out of your hands. It's not even the financial sort of impact. You said you were in denial. How long did that last for?
It had to last like a day. Like, I then had to quickly switch off. I'd be like, Jesus, everything is happening. So, yeah. But it was, I mean, there was obviously an element of excitement, because it was like, right, this is crazy. The good thing about our sector, not that I want to encourage everyone to move into it and compete with us, but the good thing about our sector is that it's always known as being reasonably recession proof, because in times of global financial crisis in 2008 and when times get tough, often people are in worse straits, so they need charities more, and the general public give more generously than they do in times of boom. So my messaging to the team was just all kind of initially positive, this is fine. If we go into a crunch, it's not a massive issue, we will ride through it. But before, I think it was 2 weeks before the furlough scheme was announced, and obviously when you start looking at a 90% drop in your pipeline, you have to look at a 90% reduction in your costs, or a big reduction in your costs. And so the first 2 weeks were probably the most stressful for me and for other agency owners, because you don't know how long this is going to last for. I was definitely going down the route that we'll be back in the office by June, which didn't happen. And I think those first 2 weeks before the furlough scheme was announced were really, really stressful. because the furlough scheme said that. Oh, sorry, I just got distracted by Will's comment there. I'll come back to that. Obviously, when you in recruitment, I think we all had experience where we went from really busy diaries to no work to do, and when so much of your industry's reputation is based on selling candidates and cold calling and badgering clients to get them to move. When all of them are in panic stations, it's very insensitive to keep trying to sell them stuff they no longer need. So your whole model just has to shift, which luckily, because we were small and you can kind of bring the team together really quickly, we did. And yeah, I mean, Will's mentioned a lot of charities have noticed a drop in income. That is true. So all charities are forecasting kind of between a 15 and 30% drop in revenue. But then you have your kind of success stories like Refuge is massively up. They achieved their annual fundraising target in 3 months, which was amazing. Some other smaller charities like homelessness or food poverty charities have doubled them. I mean, one organisation we work with was meant to be raising 1.5 million and raised 10 million over the last 7 months. So it's a kind of tale of two halves again. And I think it mirrors all sectors and mirrors recruitment agency owners. If you didn't pivot quickly and if you didn't make good decisions, now you're suffering the consequences. And the charity sector is the same.
So 90% is just huge. I mean, that's just, it's such a big number. You almost must have thought, well, that's it. You know, we're done. Right? Well, having come from this is recession proof. You know, we're okay. To suddenly bang 90% off. Those 2 weeks must have been pretty stressful. Then, you know, things like the furlough scheme announced, and there was all that sort of stuff. What happened? You know, what sort of things did you start to do to start the whole pivot? And I just come back to that. You mentioned about, you know, it's insensitive to sell. I think that caught a lot of businesses out of sort of caught them off guard a little bit, because the rhetoric was, don't sell, you know, stop selling, don't sell anything, because it is insensitive and it's the wrong time to start trying to push your products. And, you know, early doors we saw, you know, COVID special offers and stuff, and they just got, you know, kind of burned, you know, all over social media, and I don't think they work very well. But for the recruitment business or industry where selling is such a big part, that must have been quite difficult for a lot of businesses to just resist that urge to sell. But anyway, come back to the question, you know, what did you start to do after those 2 weeks or during those 2 weeks where?
Yeah. So we spoke to our clients and really leveraged them. So all of my my big clients, I rang and asked for their advice. Really, I think it was a really good time to show humility in terms of you have to leave your ego and the way that you've always worked and the fact that you're wedded to that approach at the door. So working with our clients, what are they going to need from us? What do they think is going to happen? Because they're obviously networking. So just having conversations with people at director level, which is the most senior level in fundraising in the area that we tend to recruit for. So having those conversations, pulling that insight into then formulating what we do. So that changed our whole marketing strategy. And we were also a bit at risk because our client base was predominantly mid to large charities. So those organizations generating between 10 million voluntary income and 60 million. So your people like Shelter would have been one of our big clients. And they were all the ones that had HR teams and financial directors that were putting a pause on recruitment and didn't want to know anything about extra spend. So we knew straight away that we had to diversify our client range. So structured our marketing around that. So we started segmenting Bullhorn, as I said, our database, into different types of organizations in terms of size. And because we started to notice that basically, because monitoring job boards, as we all were at that point, we were the smaller charities where they perhaps didn't have a financial director in post were still recruiting, obviously fewer and further between because they don't have 100 staff, they only have 5. But so we then were like, right, we have to build out our small charity database. So we started setting up kind of targeted marketing for that. We also segmented in terms of which of our sectors were doing well. So as I said, food poverty, homelessness, and women's abuse or domestic abuse were the charities that were like bringing in the money. So we added new clients to our database. We started putting them on a marketing journey. Soft sells. So, and I'll come on to kind of the ideas that we did around that. So it wasn't like marketing candidates. It was, let's have a conversation. We want to talk to you about kind of how we can support you in the future. We started doing stuff around kind of sector trends and things. But that was our kind of main approach. What we then drove forward in kind of public facing marketing was, we realized that we were having a lot of calming conversations with our clients, with our candidates, telling them it's going to be okay, not to freak out, not to panic. And actually that was quite time consuming. So we launched our webinar series, which I think, and people can counter me here, but I think we were one of the first agencies to do that. So we launched our webinar series. So far we've had over 15 sessions. Most of those were during that kind of furlough period where everyone was off and everyone was terrified. Across all of those webinars we had like 1,400 attendees. We had over 2,200 registrations. All of that data we could then capture, which was great to again build out another marketing journey. And I guess also cemented our brand. As I said at the start, we like to work in a really relationship-led way as a recruitment partner. So for us, those were all free webinars, and they were about us helping you, us spreading positivity. We thought if we could try and message to our marketplace that everything wasn't bad, that there were some charities that were doing amazingly, that they just had to tweak their performance to do that, they would naturally feel more confident breeds success, etc. And then they would go back into recruiting. So it was definitely a long-term kind of game. We, had another thing that's obviously come up since the Black Lives Matter movement, Resurgence's commitment to ED&I, and our sector's not great for that. Traditionally, it's middle class white women that work in most of the roles. Leadership are predominantly white men. So we it's something I'm passionate about anyway. I don't want it to seem like we jumped on the bandwagon, but we took ownership of that within our sector. We and I think, there's still a lot of room for agencies to spearhead and lead from the front in their individual sectors. So we set up our policy. It's front and center of our website. As someone mentioned, we used RepWebs for that. So we have our commitment to diversity on there. We've updated our policies. We mail shotted all of our clients about that. We try to build out HR relationships. And actually, that policy alone has led to a couple of pitches for director level roles, which isn't necessarily the point that we normally target, as well as I think about 4 or 5 jobs have come through based on the fact that we're known to be the people in our industry that care most about diversity and inclusion. So we kind of jumped on sector trends and we just took ownership of them, and we marketed it so much that we drowned out the other agencies in our sector. So we're new. Our market has sector-specific market leaders. We also have Hayes, Michael Page that have their charity desks, and then we have your boutique agencies. So we're in quite a crowded market space, but we are now the thought leaders in that area. We're committing to an ongoing series of webinars, and it just further reinforces in our clients' minds, we are the agency to support them. We are the agency that cares about them. And we're definitely now, like, our job flow has picked up massively. I'd say we're about 10% behind job rate that we were at in pre-COVID, which is a huge kind of uplift, and also hard because we've all got used to working at probably like 70% capacity. So that's fun. And I think it's just been reviewing that all the way through. So I haven't stopped having conversations with my clients about what they need and what they think. So we actually moved away from free webinars into paid for training sessions. We also looked at, based on that information from them about what they need and what the sector needs, we've offered additional services paid for. So that's bespoke interview training sessions, in a competitive market, obviously it's harder for people to get jobs, so we now do one-on-one sessions around that. And then also, sorry, I know that I'm going on, but we also broadened our remit in terms of, we've always focused specifically on income generating roles. So, business development, major donor fundraisers, etc. And now we've covered more types of roles. So we've kind of broadened out into support functions. So looking at database managers that support the fundraising team, or innovation managers, so that we've got a little bit more remit that we can go after in a market that was quite quiet. So yeah, that's how we kind of pivoted successfully.
So you didn't do much then?
Yeah. It was only a little bit.
On Netflix. I think that's there's so much there, and I just want to kind of pull some of that out a little bit. The first thing that you mentioned around was having a lot of calming conversations with clients and candidates. I've not heard of that before. So that was actually a thing where you became, the calming voice.
Within the first by the end of the first week, so on the 23rd, my team was tasked with calling through all of our active candidates and having conversations with them to be like, it's okay, we're here, how are you feeling, all of that stuff, which I know for a lot of people will be like, oh well, that's a really female approach to take to that, like obviously it works for you, like blah blah blah. But actually people wanted to talk, so we have male candidates, we have female candidates. The same approach worked for both. I think at that moment, and what we had come through from that were 3 jobs at the quietest point in time. That first 2 months, 3 roles came through, candidates that we'd phoned that had been like, oh, they were so amazing, they actually got in touch with us when all the other agencies were ignoring us or not coming back to us. And it also led to candidates posting about us on LinkedIn. So we haven't had to drive through all of our own marketing, because our candidates and our clients have been advocates for us. So people were posting, use Ashby Jenkins Recruitment, they're amazing, get in touch with them, they're wonderful. Which, that's the best kind of marketing, and the cheapest marketing that you can kind of get.
I think one of the key things that I had read a lot about was, during a recession, most businesses will go into a kind of they'll sort of batten down the hatches, and they'll stop marketing, they'll stop talking. And actually that's probably the best time to increase marketing, because in a busy environment it's very difficult to cut through that noise and all that activity. In a booming marketplace, people wouldn't necessarily notice you, but actually it's the easiest time to grab some market share during a recession. Which we now know was a recession, but during that time, to keep that marketing going, is worth its weight in gold to actually do that. So I guess, and the other sort of rhetoric is around moving from selling to marketing, increasing marketing activity. As you said, it's if you've got people sort of referencing you guys and referring, then that's brilliant. Word of mouth has always been the best form of marketing. So I think that's a really important message to make, to kind of keep that marketing going. And you're right, with so many recruitment consultants that have been furloughed, you had clients and candidates that were just left. They'd have one conversation and then have nothing. It would be quiet. So the fact that you were speaking to them has obviously had a really big impact. And the relationship side, which I talk a lot about, I think, again, this was probably the best time to be able to reach out to clients who may not even previously wanted to talk to you, but because of what everything was going on, suddenly they're happy to have a conversation because they're worried and anxious and unsure about what's going to happen. So having someone at the other end of the phone or Zooms or whatever, is a good opportunity to build that relationship, where in the past they didn't have time. to actually build it?
We've definitely seen actually more of our billings over the last 2 quarters have come from brand new clients to us. I mean, obviously we're only 2 years old, so everyone kind of, but last year, but all of the outreach and the recommendations and stuff like that has driven forward more new business than our kind of our initial portfolio.
I think again, so it's the relationship, and if you have a strong vision and strong values, and you communicate those, and you live and breathe those, and actually, to reinforce the diversity point, I can kind of reinforce that, because I know we've spoken a little bit about the diverse audience of the job boards.
Yeah.
And what sort of audience are they attracting, which is a really, really good point. It's something I haven't done anything with, but it's something that I want to talk to the job boards about, because it's in sort of, this is another topic for another day, but their objective is to attract candidates, and there will be some candidates that are easier to attract onto their website than others. So that's a question of, well, what are you actually doing? What are they doing to attract more of a diverse audience? So I can reinforce that is something that you guys have really championed and become that kind of thought leader as well, and pushed yourself into that market, because again, now's a good time to do it, because everyone else is being quiet and licking their wounds and hibernating or trying to survive. So you've got that gap which you can move into, which is great. And then tell us a bit more about the expanding of the products, the services that you offer, because I think that's a really key area. So
Yeah. So we moved into training, and we partnered with a kind of consultant from the sector for that. So they kind of design the training with us. I'd say they do like 60% of it. We do kind of 40, and then we take care of all the marketing of it. So again, it gives us an opportunity to have, I guess, non-recruitment conversations with our clients and also with our candidates on our database, and we can market the training to both. And that we put as a really affordable price. That's group training, which we charge like £30 for an hour per person, so that's useful. The one-to-one interview training is something that we do, and then we send the recordings around to the team, that we have at like £120 for an hour session. And then we also have kind of moved into, and we advertise this on our website now, around kind of CV formatting. Basically every need that people have, we now look at doing. So we're going to do a group training on interview techniques, again at a lower price point, to touch those people that are probably struggling more to find roles. So that kind of 28k to 35k candidate. But it's just pivoting around, I guess. So those are the kind of sold services. To be completely frank, we'll probably have to look at a way of kind of scaling that back now, because our job flow is back to being busy, which, there's no point focusing on a £120 interview training at the loss of doing headhunting for a £5,000 fee. So I think you have to constantly be prepared to adapt. It's not just, okay, we'll move out of the recruitment messaging and we'll go into training, or we'll just keep it that way forever, or D&I is our thing now. Like we need to kind of push forward. And the other training that we are looking at introducing and more to our clients is around diversity and inclusion and best practice in recruitment. So that's something that we're just kind of finalising at the moment, but I think will be a continued area of investment for organisations. So it's kind of a safe bet if anything else crazy happens in the next 6 months.
And who knows if it will.
Exactly.
Ian's hi Ian, has kind of put some comments on the side, which is great. And I think the last point around lots of businesses doing well, but not shouting about it because they don't want to be seen as sort of bragging or gloating or whatever. I think it's really important to make sure you got your messaging right there. I think we have to move away from the posting about how brilliant, so and so agency is, and how many placements have been made. This, right, we've almost got to get away from that mentality and go back to the marketing side. So I think trying to focus on your key messages and the key values you've got is really important. And if this has done something, it's actually it's humbled us. It's humbled everybody. Even the most arrogant of businesses have been humbled. So I think that's a really important message and lesson for us all. That it doesn't matter who you are and where you're at. These things has impacted everybody. And I think those that have, I think you can share your success without making it sound as though you're, doing it at the expense of others. So make sure you get your messaging right there a little bit. But anyway, let's move on. How have your team been with all of this?
So brilliant, obviously. We used to have a structure, so that's another thing that we've had to change. We used to have a structure because we were so candidate short, where we had one kind of billing consultant, which was myself and my other team member, and then 2 resources that would kind of work closely with us. One of those people would then look after kind of more of the marketing and operations side, so that I could focus on more of the client development side. We obviously, when you have loads of candidates and no jobs, that system doesn't work anymore. So both of those resources went on furlough from kind of April through to when we had to start bringing them back part-time. So it was just myself and Lucy, who is the other salesperson, for about 3 months, which was fine. So we were still doing weekly catch-ups with everyone at the end of the day on Friday, just to kind of check in on how it's going. Lucy and I were catching up at the start of every day, and then obviously at the end of every day as well. And I guess working remotely is really hard when you're often inspired when you've got other salespeople on the phone. You can hear what they're doing, especially with when we've had the resources come back part-time. That's been hard to try and, I guess, adapt them back to the pace of work, because when you've not been working for 3 months, and understandably, and it's not their choice that's happened, that was my choice, pace really goes down. So it took them a couple of weeks to get back up to the flow of things. We're now there, which is great, but I think it's just being really open and honest with your team. Like, you can't hide stuff from them. I think you also have to seed stuff really far in advance. So saying, look, my intention is to keep us all together, my intention is to keep us all on. I can't guarantee that. If it's shit, say it's shit. Like, don't try and tell them it's amazing. If you've got frustrations, I think that kind of being open with them and being like, God, that's a really annoying day. We sent 5 candidates for a role. They got 100 applications online. They've shortlisted 3 of ours, and then they've gone with the online candidate. And that's something or the direct candidate, that's something that we're seeing more and more. So I think sharing your frustrations with your team, praising them more, like sharing like achievements, I think that's really key. And I think just being more in tune with them and how they're feeling is important now, because people are dealing with their own nightmare at home. Or we were a London-based agency, so 2 of my team are in shared houses. That's not ideal. They're having to work with their beds in the background, and they're washing, blah blah blah. I think the thing that really helped the team was bringing them together. Like, we are all in this is all of our business. Like, yes, it's mine, obviously, that's great, but your jobs are here. Like, I can keep you safe, but we all need to fight together. And if you don't want to fight, then it's not going to work. And I think kind of uniting everyone under that goal of like, do you want your job, but do you want your job? Like, we all want to be here. We all enjoy working together. The times before were really great. So fight with me now, because if you're not going to, there's no point. And I think kind of pulling them all together in that direction is what's kind of kept us gelled well. And I think as well, like, also just reassuring them, like, we are the best at what we do. Like, we support our clients more than any of our competitors. We are doing better than our competitors. I think that kind of positive rhetoric about it's rubbish for everyone, but we're ahead, or we're doing well. I think that's the kind of key messaging to keep going.
I think that common, having that common purpose or that common enemy, if you like, helps bring people together a little bit, and
Yeah.
kind of keeps everybody, creates the element of teamwork. So, and how has it been, as you sort of said, recruitment is typically, sales led, you sort of, you get energy from the person next to you. Suddenly going to, everyone working remotely, how has it took a couple of weeks for the pace to get back up, but how has that been also for you in, staying close to the team, not checking in, but,
Yeah.
when you're all together, you can see everybody is all, high energy. Sometimes you can see someone's, not on their game, and they, you can see visually. Whereas now it's you can't see them. So how has that been for you in terms of leading and managing the team from a distance?
Yeah. So I think it's really hard. There's no like a miracle way of working with this. I'm bringing my team in 1 day a week to our office at the moment because our offices are WeWork, so it's safe. That I've got less responsibility than people that have their own offices. I understand that, but I think the truth is some people can't work well from home. That's just that. Some people can't self-motivate, and I think that's the challenge moving forward is, do you want those people in your business? And um I think in terms of like of when recruitment agency owners are going to have to make more decisions over the coming months, around what do they do with their teams? Do they shrink them? Do they kind of maintain the same? I think if you're having really open conversations with your staff about how are you finding working from home, can you self-motivate, get their honest perspective, and then you'll obviously have perhaps the same, perhaps a different one. And then I think you have to build a way out of working around that. It's really tiresome by teams to check in with your team like 4 times a day, being like, you got all that stuff done? Have you got all that stuff done? I think you have to go into with certain team members, take a bit of an approach of micromanagement, like, right, can you block your diary out to show me what you're actually doing during that time? And in the grand scheme of things, those are probably not people that are going to work well in your business over the next 12 months until we kind of come back properly. I think we should all have more flexibility. Working from home 2 days a week is great, but I think for team spirit and for a sales environment, my opinion is still that we need to be in like 3 days a week. And I am very self-motivated, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be running my own business. But even I'm going into my office 3 days. I think it's a really difficult balance to get. And I think you would expect people to come back like really fighting and like trying to prove that they're working all the time. And actually that's not been the case for many of us, so I would imagine.
Do you think you'll always keep an office? Like some people are talking about going remote.
Yeah, so we're in a flexible working environment anyway with WeWork. So I have 2 desks now. We used to have 4, I've reduced that down. So there's 4 of us. So there will probably never be a point where we're all in the office at once. But for now this works. I don't think you need the office space. I would say everyone should probably reduce their office space by like 50%, maybe even 60, going down to 3 days if everyone's kind of working from home 2 days, or maybe even 3 days. But yeah, I think the big offices
or keep your offices and double in size.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you've got that kind of success, by all means grow.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Just coming in, put a question in there. I think you'd mentioned before that you were now just 10% under what you were pre-COVID wise from a business point of view.
That's in job flow. So job flow, we're down 10%. Obviously with recruitment, that takes a couple of months to like bill through and come in. In terms of revenue, as I said, Q1 was really strong. So if I'm benchmarking on Q1, we're down about 50%. If I'm looking at last year, we're only down by about 10, which is really strong.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. So what about we're kind of getting towards the end now? People will start to think about their lunch, I'm sure. So I think you've shared loads and loads of good stuff there in terms of what you've done, and it's I didn't realize you'd done all of that. Maybe I should be a better uncle.
Maybe we should do better marketing.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to other agency owners now? That well, that are going. Everyone's going through similar stuff. Everyone's doing different, has done different stuff. But what advice would you give them right now as we're potentially looking at another lockdown or whatever it is? I don't know.
So I think the churn and burn model of recruitment is dead. Like, unless you really want to cut your rates to like 9%, which eventually will run you out of business anyway, don't just change your model. Like, that's not going to work. You need to build genuine relationships with your clients and add value to them. So I guess talking to people more now than ever before. If you've not had that brand so far, you need to start positioning that way. And if as a leader that's not your strength, you need to get someone in your team to spearhead that, because I think that's the way moving forward. And if you don't like building genuine relationships, obviously depending on your sector, I think IT, and I've never recruited for IT and finance, but based on, let's say personality stereotypes, you probably don't need a relationship with them. But if you're in most other sectors, you'll need some kind of relationship with your clients. If you can't do that, shut up shop and go, because you're not relevant anymore. And I think get your clients to really buy into your agency, share about your concerns as well. Oh, it's been a bit tough. You don't want to kind of give them a sad song, but you want them to know you're struggling. We have had to think really carefully about how we position our communications to a sector that are lamenting that they're down 30% in income wise, when in Q2 we were down 70% income wise. So you can't say that to people and then be like, you should feel more sorry for us. It's not a sorry who's sadder game, but get that kind of thing. I think broaden your client portfolio. If like us, you've got either really small businesses that you work with or really large, or vary that out and kind of build marketing strategies for each of those people. And I think if you have teams where people aren't salespeople, that no longer exists. Everyone's a salesperson. So my resources are now targeted on selling our trainings and selling our interview preps. They're KPI'd on that. So everyone in your business is a salesperson. If it's your PSL manager, if it's your marketing manager, all of your jobs is to try and make sure that the business survives. So I think making sure you're getting them bought into that messaging. And I think also finally, and this is, I think all recruitment agencies have to be in this together, hold your prices, for the love of God. We're the most expensive out of all our competitors based on what my clients are telling me at the moment, because everyone's dropping to 10%, 12% or whatever. I think value your service, push that quality and hold your prices at a good level, because although obviously you're not going to be held to it after the pandemic, it just devalues everything that we do. If you're doing a flat fee of $2,000 for some recruitment, it just devalues all of everyone else's work.
Yeah, I think it becomes a price war, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got 3 or 4 agencies, and it's well, they're going to do it for 12, they're going to do it for 11, they're going to do it for 10, and you just keep going down and down, and then that's all they're interested in. That's all they buy on, rather than expertise.
One of our competitors did a huge mail shot, and I know because a couple of our clients sent it to us, basically saying, hi, I know it's been tough for you, just we're really willing to negotiate on rates, so please just call us about any vacancies you have. And I think it just sends a desperate message to the market, and they're one of the big boys. It fits with what their brand is about. But my clients are look at this, must be really struggling.
Yeah I think you're right. It just sounds so desperate, doesn't it? And which is sad, if that's the position that they've got themselves into. So going back to what you're saying, recruitment got to be this, almost in this together, and you don't. Whilst it's good to have competitors because it's someone to go up against, actually, you don't really want that too much. So yeah, good advice there, Ash. Well done, thank you. So I think we're done. I think we're finished. If there's no one else, if anyone else has got anything that they want to add on the site, Ian, you've been contributing greatly, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. We have more webinars booked. You should go ahead and see register for some of Ashby's webinars as well. I put her web address in the sidebar, so go and check her out, and I'm sure you can find her on LinkedIn and connect with her that way. And if you want to say hi to her, then please do. Thank you to everybody. Ashby, thank you very much. That was brilliant. There was so much good value in there. I think a lot of people can take some good stuff from that. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm happy to have a virtual coffee and just get in touch. That's great.
A virtual coffee.
There we go. It's modern.
Right. Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.